Where are they at?
YouTube.
Today we're going to build an engine. I know you guys have seen us do kind of a quick recap of King Twins. Well, we're going to slow it down a little bit and do this one with you guys today. Some of you may be asking, if you saw this video, what we did here. First of all, we cleaned it pretty dang good, and it looks really nice. I mean, it turned out great.
You can eat spaghetti in these piston holes.
I don't know if you want to eat spaghetti out of there.
I'm just saying, it's that clean. You could if you wanted to.
But the block looks amazingly painted, and I've got pretty good confidence. So we cleaned it really well, and then we primered it with high temp primer, and then painted it with high temp semi-gloss black. And then over the top of the semi-gloss black, we did Pour 15. I'm pretty excited to see how it holds up. I bet it's going to hold pretty decently. This Wes over here just asked a really good question. It's a short block or a long block? Technically, it's a bare block right now. It's bare, because it has no pistons, no bearings, no nothing in it, okay? So first we're going to assemble the short block, and then when we torque the heads, it becomes a long block. Wow. That's what the difference is. If the long block means that heads are on it.
I thought that it meant long or short.
That's not what it means, folks. We're still teaching her. For the folks that are curious on this, we had the machine shop clean the block and then hone the cylinders. I'm going to clean it a little bit more. I don't think it's as clean as I want it to be. But this you can find on Amazon. It's basically a knife sharpener with a magnet base. It's a big knife sharpener. What's really cool about this, it can go like that. It can cover the entire surface.
Terrible noise.
It's a terrible noise and it's going to get worse. Okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put some rags underneath. Well, not rags, but some of this so we don't make a major mess down here. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some PB Blaster or some WD-40. We have PB Blaster like this, and we're going to take and thoroughly coat top of the engine, well the head surface I guess you could say, if you want to call it that, which that's what it is, but thoroughly coat it with this. We're trying to lubricate. Remember, you're not trying to take metal off. We're not trying to remove any material from the surface. All we're trying to do is clean. You guys recall that from our last video. And then we're just going to go back and forth like this. This is what I like about this thing, is it can go across the whole head surface. And if you guys notice, I'm trying to make sure that I do even strokes. And I'm just making sure that I apply the same amount of pressure, kind of the same angle. You guys can see it's taking some junk off the cylinder, or off the top of the cylinders. Now, I'm not at all saying that the machine shop didn't do it right. I'm simply doing this to show the folks at home how to do this. You can find this tool on Amazon, and I'm not a big fan of Amazon. I don't recommend buying truck parts there, but I do recommend some tools from there. We buy some tools from there too. You do not want to use red rags, anything that's got a whole bunch of lint. You're not trying to leave lint behind when you do this job. We could spend another couple hours on it if we needed to, but I don't think we need to. Might do one more pass over it. But it's not horrible. You can make this super shiny if you wanted to. Don't need to.
It's an engine.
We're just trying to make sure it's a good sealing surface. That's all we're trying to make sure of.
How much pressure are you putting?
Almost none. Pretty much of the tool is all the pressure that it's seeing. I'm just moving it back and forth, letting the weight of the tool do the job. First things first, we gotta put some main bearings down in here. Now, there is an orientation of these main bearings. Number one, when you look at the bearing, there's going to be two different, there's upper and lower, I guess you could call it. The lower goes on the bed plate side, the upper goes on the engine side. If you look at the bearing, you can clearly see which one goes on the bed plate because, or on the engine side. This is an oil galley. Now, if you were to put this here, no oil would be able to make it through to the bearing. But when you put this here, oil makes it through to the bearing. See how the oil hole right there? So that's number one, that's crucial. Number two, that's crucial. You have what's called a thrust bearing that helps control forward and reverse, basically, your crank when it torques from going backwards and forwards in the engine. There is a specific location of this. Adam, do you remember the specific location?
Say what?
The specific location of the thrust bearing?
Oh, I know it's the second one in, but I can't remember why.
It's just the second one in, and I'm going to show you guys a quick tip and an easy way to determine that, where your thrust bearing goes.
Is this hole bigger?
Nope, not bigger. Look at this right here. You see this tab? What side is that on? This tab right here for your main bearings to go in. Now this one right here is on the opposite side, and the thrust bearing is the only one that has the tab on that side. So it's a very easy way to make sure you put it in the right spot. There we go. Now we're going to lubricate the living daylights out of it. This is lubriplate number 105 motor assembly grease. We use this on everything. We keep 6 to something tabs or tubes of this stuff around forever. Oh, that's not going to hurt anything. All we're trying to do is just lubricate. Be liberal with this. Don't be afraid to put too much. It's impossible to put too much. This is going to help on startup to ensure that there's no excess bearing wear on startup. We do need to put the oilers in. Thank you. We're going to put the oilers in before we put the crank in because it's kind of a pain in the ass once you put the crank in. Cannot stress this is 100 times easier to do, which if you're not taking apart, if you don't take it to the machine shop, there really is no reason to take these out. Machine shops takes them out on their own when they hot tank the block. This is a 10 millimeter.
Oh, that is the piston oiler.
Piston oiler. That is a piston oiler, and it's a 10 millimeter, and this is designed to cool the piston. That's what it's for. Lubricated, but mainly this thing's main job is cooling the piston.
What I just put in real quick was if you take it to a machine shop, they will take this these two plugs out of here to make it when they
Your block trains.
What do they call it? Hot tank it, yeah. They'll take these out of here, so just make sure you put them on because we forgot on the last one. It was pretty funny actually. We started putting coolant in it, just literally started pouring right out. So
yeah, we forgot
Small
to check.
mistakes will make for you guys.
yep.
Okay, so just a quick recap because the GoPro being a piece of crap. So we have our main bearings installed on the block side. We put our piston oilers in. We lubricated the camshaft bearings.
They're in great shape, so.
Yeah, they're in great shape. It's very, very rare that you have to replace those. Like incredibly rare. I'm into I think I talked about that with King Twins as well. I don't think I've ever actually seen a single 6.0 that needed camshaft bearings. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start doing the bed plate side of things. So in our lower gasket kit, these are the gaskets, these are the O-rings for the bed plate. Now what I like to do is run some RTV along here on both sides, push this in, and then torque it down onto the block. We're gonna pick the crank up as well and put it in place, put our main bearings on this side, and then we'll get the torque in that. I'm gonna come back in as needed to show you guys steps of the build, okay? Okay, right here, we're installing the bed plate gasket, and there is a specific orientation. You can see the tabs on the ends, and I may have put a little excess, but I think it'll be fine.
That's the little tab we were talking about.
Yep. I'm gonna grab main bearings. Now on this side, there is no real orientation of the bearings on this side because this doesn't have the thrust washer. Remember, the thrust washer, thrust bearing goes the second from the back. It's the only one that has the specific orientation of the tab in the block. You cannot use multiple if you have crank walk. That does not work. I have seen builders try to do that, and it gets interesting inside the oil pan when that happens. It gets very interesting inside the oil pan. You should see the mess that creates. This truck's also getting a set of Gator main studs.
All right, so you guys comment below, what's worse, RTV or NICs?
I think RTV, because it like dries.
I want to say NICs though, because when you get it on something, it does not come off.
Adam, I'm gonna hand this up to you. I'm gonna try to. Okay, crank's been nice and polished at the machine shop. Set her down in there. Ah, nice and smooth. I like that. Now, we're gonna flip this bad boy over, set it on there, and then we're gonna get doing the main stud. You got that side?
Yep.
Those tabs really just hold your main bearings in place so you can do this. Oh, I got the wrong spot because I'm... Boom. Now there is a specific orientation. It was long on the inside, short on the outside, I think, of the bolts, if I recall correctly. Everybody does ask which RTV we use. Generally, this is what we use if we can't get Ford OE RTV, which is really hard to come by lately, but ultra gray gasket maker, high torque, high temp. That's what my preferred go-to is. So if anybody asks, that's what we use when we seal the bottom end of these things. And we'll also use it on the upper oil pan and the actual oil pan. We do build engines for customers. We have to use a machine shop that's 3 hours away. So that does take up some time. What I can say is if you need a custom engine build, give us a holler. These are all long ones. Okay, so on your engine here, these long ones will go in the center. Your bed plate bolts are same, it's long and short. Now, it doesn't look like much, but you gotta remember, these don't need to stick out because then you gotta put an upper oil pan on here. So you just finger tighten them in, that's it. And then from here, we'll lubricate them and put the nuts on. These don't have any washers. And then we'll put all the short ones on the outside. Here's the Gator main stud kit. Long on the inside, short on the outside. Really, you'll notice if you put the short on the wrong spot, it's too short. And it'll bottom out and you won't be able to put a nut on there. It's not a bad idea to go through with a Allen head and just make sure they're just lightly snug. You're only trying to just make sure they're bottomed out, like 2 to 3 foot-pounds of torque. There's nothing major on these. Now these Gator main studs come with a gasket, a torque spec. It's an 18 millimeter 12 point. And they also, so here's your directions right back here. Step 1, you go to 60 foot-pounds. Step 2, 120. Step 3, 180. Step 4, you do the M8 bolts if your engine has these. Some engines did not come with these. This engine did. And they go right out here. They really don't do anything. They're like inner row bolts for your heads. They're really not there for much other than peace of mind. But then you do these to 20 foot-pounds on the outside. I think it has 10. This engine only has room for 8. Some engines have 10, some have none, some have 8. I mean, that's really what we've noticed so far, doing this so many different times. We did an engine 3 weeks ago that had none in it. Kind of weird. I was like, huh. And that paint turned out really nice, actually. Oh, yeah. I'm pretty happy with how it looks. Should look great. This truck's getting compounded. It's going to be PSP race heads, a stage 2 cam, Powerstroke Products race heads, Powerstroke Products stage 2 camshaft, pulled up fab compound kit, 205/30 holders premiums with a stock charger in the valley and a 475 out front. So it should be every bit of 700 horsepower, 650, 700. Should be just a healthy daily driver. Chad lives up in Durango, so we're really excited to see how it performs up there with the compounds for the altitude. That's pretty exciting to see how it does. Threads, I always put a little, we always go through and put some on the bolt itself and then some on the inside of the threads here. We got the mains all nice and torqued. As you can see, these are pretty much flush with the top of the stud. Now we're gonna roll it over real quick by hand, and then we're gonna get ready to assemble some pistons. Oh, nice and smooth.
Love it.
Love it. Like one finger, and it's smooth as glass right there.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna be like the only person that gets to watch their engine be built. We'll be back in a moment, okay? All right, guys, even though I've done this plenty of times, I still always leave one piston assembled to start so I don't screw up the orientation of the piston. The reason being is when you look at your piston, that's where your piston oiler is gonna go into, okay? So it's crucial. So if you look, you can look at the piston. There's no other groove other than that one right there, okay? So it's crucial that you put that in the correct orientation. These are a D-lift, so it's kind of hard because I don't, well, here, I'm gonna show you this one right here. So if you guys look here, you can see that this one is no lip right there, and here's the stock one. You see the lip? What that's supposed to do is help control heat and help make the piston stronger, because that's the weakest part of the piston right there. These are ceramic coated. They came from Kill Devil Diesel. They're a 30 thousandths because this block needed that much love before it could work. Now here's something that's even stumped me a few times in assembly. The orientation of the piston rings. I know it's funny, I've done this plenty of times, but even I still have a moment once in a while. Because I'm human and I do a lot of things and I forget. So this is your oiling ring here. And I always like to take and find on the oiling ring, it's basically a spring inside of there. I like to find the spot where the oiling ring separates like that. And your oiling ring always goes on first, and you want to make sure that you don't mess these up, because if you mess up a ring and you're going to be calling me crying and have to wait for another ring. I didn't grab the dang pick. I need that one, and then we're just gonna grab a few of them and where the little pick at. I'll take my wrist pin out, and I'm just gonna slowly work this down to where it's supposed to go. I'm not trying to force it, I'm trying to talk it into going there. So now it's there. Now this is where it gets a little even more confusing. If you can see this right here, that says M top. This just says M. That means stands for Molly. If you can see that M there, and that says M top. Duh, you would think this one goes on the top, right? Well, it does not, okay? It's not the top compression ring. This is the center, but that means that that's got to face up. And I promise you, you will get some cuts from this. If you order pistons ceramic coated, these have to be removed in order to be ceramic coated. So it's perfectly normal. So this can be kind of a pain in the butt. Basically, just trying to work it down, and you'll be able to tell when it seats into the correct. I mean, that's the other thing you can tell is this doesn't fit here. So it's not that hard to screw it up. It's just sometimes you have a brain fart, and there we go. So that piston's ready to be put together. So I'm going to show you one assembly and then probably go off camera for the rest of it. Now the other important thing to remember is on these, on your connecting rods, if you're using OEM, they're broken. So basically they're cracked, okay? They're just lightly cut and then bam, broken. So if you use the wrong connecting rod on the wrong hole, it'll lock the bottom end up right away. Now it's very hard to see, but there is a little bit of writing on that one. And this one looks like 259. And 259, that tells you that they're a matching set. It's very difficult to see that. 259, 259. So that tells that this is a matching set. So if you take apart your bottom end and you go put it together and you start torquing your connecting rods and it gets locked up, that means you have these orientated improperly. Now we're not gonna put the connecting rod bearings on yet. I'm just gonna show them how to assemble the piston. Where are the snap rings at? Did you get them out of the box? This is kind of a messy job as well. There's basically 2 snap rings per thing. And what I'll do is I'll put 1 snap ring in one side. So you take the snap ring, or needle nose, put it in one side, like that. Okay, there's that. Now, this is where it gets crucial to pay attention to the orientation of your piston oiler. If you notice, I have this piston sitting a specific way, so I'm gonna put it back in that same way. Now I'm gonna take and lubricate this guy. These are a pain in the butt to get in sometimes, just so you know. And this is a messy job. This part of the job is probably the most messy part of the whole job. Okay, we got that lubricated, and we're gonna start this. And it'd be funny if you think that these things come flying out of there so quick and easy, but then you go to put them back in and it's like, okay, you just gotta find that perfect spot and then it just slides right in. I know that we're set up like that. So this guy's gonna go like that. And once again, like I always say, there's a whole bunch of different ways to accomplish the same goal. Just remember, you're trying to make sure you put it together to where it's nice and clean and organized. Then we're going to take and put our snap ring in, and then that piston is ready to install. Okay, and just to verify, if you guys look at this piston, we got the oiler right there, so the orientation is perfect, okay? So this one's ready to go in. So now I'm going to take and put this on the other cart, and we're going to continue building these. We'll chime back in when we're ready to put them in the engine, okay? So, unfortunately, we were going through and we didn't realize it until the end. It must have broken, or I got lucky and got all the right good ones before. It must have been broken in shipping or something. But that's no bueno. Can't have a 2-piece oil sealing ring, or else we're not going to seal any oil. At the moment, we are pretty much dead in the water. We're going to install the 7 pistons we have. I'm going to show you how to do one of them. The rest of them are pretty straightforward from there. And then once we get the new pistons, we'll show you how to torque the bottom end and finish putting this thing together. There really isn't an orientation. It doesn't really matter which one goes where. All that matters is that you install this properly here. And make sure that you pay attention to the rotation of your piston oiler. This is crucial right here. Now, because these are de-lipped and coated, they don't have any markings on the top of the piston anymore. Or else normally they would say cam side up on the piston itself, but because they're coated and de-lipped, they don't have that. So it's crucial that you pay attention to that when you go to install this. ARP makes these really cool piston ring compressors. This is what I like to use. Now I always take and lubricate the piston ring compressor. You can use engine oil. I use Lubriplate. Gator's AMSOIL works really well. Also, we have so much of that around here, we might start using that at some point. I always wear a black shirt. Adam likes to live life on the dangerous side and piss his wife off. He doesn't wear black shirts. I know this is pointed down, and you probably can't see my face, but I'm over here talking. Okay, so from here, now we're going to take and slide this bad boy in. And you can do this on a bench, or you can do it like this. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that your piston ring gaps are not on the same location. So we're going to offset them. So I know that the oiling ring's over here, my compression, that one's there, and one's there. So we should be good there. And then you're going to just kind of feel this slide into place. You'll feel it slide into place just like so. I usually go to about right there, about halfway through. I'm going to send this on down to Adam. Yeah, we might want to put a bearing on there. Okay. Totally forgot the bearing. Probably not gonna do very well if I don't put this in there. Might have a little bit of a rod knock. Once again, lubricate. There's some lubrication so we don't dry start this thing. That's never good. And I need my handy dandy rubber mallet. Now Adam's gonna go on the other side and guide it in. Generally, you're gonna use that, remember? Generally, I like to use the pry bar. We use the pry bar method. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this bad boy right here, just like so. Something's not lining up properly. We took a quick break. Adam got everything lined up. Now we're gonna rotate the crank to be ready to assume the connecting rod touching it. So if you can see, you got that set just like that. Adam's gonna get this lobe at the bottom, and I'm gonna tap it in. I'm gonna tap it to him, he's gonna guide it. He's gonna guide the connecting rod to go over the crank. Now, once we get it to here, push it to that. Adam, you ready?
Yep.
Oh, something didn't work.
You just gotta lift it a little bit here. There you go.
Now, usually I like to do that a little faster, so I don't take a chance of hurting a ring, but we didn't hurt a ring, so we're good. Nice and snug. Good?
Yep.
All right, we're seated fully, like that. Now, ARP makes these tools. They're like 60 bucks on our website. 3.4 is standard size, 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, okay? And then 3.8. You can buy one just for your specific job for 40, 50 bucks. Makes it 10 times easier than using one of the old piston ring compressor tools. I think this is just one of the best tools ARP's ever came out with. I will give that one to ARP. So we got that installed. And then we're just gonna keep going on down the line. Would you like some lube, sir?
Sure would.
You would?
I was just gonna mix all that in.
Oh my goodness. Poor people, and you're like, is this really how it goes?
Is this really how they're putting this in together? Like, I'm definitely not bringing my shit here.
Drive it in, tow it out. That's the theory.
Yep.
We're gonna do
That's what
that
our
on a
next
shirt
shirts
one
are
of these
gonna be.
times. Huh?
That's what our next round of shirts are gonna be.
Drive it in, tow it out.
Hashtag fix it yourself.
Jeez, I got freaking lubrication everywhere. All right, guys, so you've watched us get to where we've installed the oil pan, main bangs, rod bangs, turn over the engine. There's gonna be some drag. If I recall, we calculated it one time, we tightened up a bolt, and it was like 40 foot-pounds of torque is what it was, if I recall. Next, we're gonna swap camshafts. This is our handy-dandy Harbor Freight kit here. Central machinery for the win. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's cheap, and it functions. It does, we've used it for a couple of other small things, but this is what this does. Push camshaft out, push camshaft back in. Keep it simple. You'll just get a socket, and generally the closer to the size of the outside, this one's a little on the smaller side, but it should work just fine. You wanna just push, and it's really straightforward. You're pushing it out, pushing it back in. These are a key weight camshaft. So it's damn near impossible to screw this up. The other thing I hear all the time is, you need to weld that. Okay, this one cracks me up a lot. I'm not saying that there are people have welded it for reasons that they have seen needed, and it doesn't. I'm saying that there are lots of trucks that have made 4-digit horsepower without welding the camshaft on the 6.0. So let's talk about that for a minute. Here's a cam retainer clip, okay? Cam retainer, right there, okay? That holds the camshaft in the engine, okay? The way the gears are shaped, the camshaft, when it's spinning, is being forced that way by torque. It's being forced that way. And then the other thing about it, it's a key weight camshaft. It's got a key on it. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying I've never seen one happen. Now, I've never built 2,000 horsepower. But we talked about, I'm just kind of, something that people tell me and say that I should be doing is, for some reason, is welding a cam gear. I see no reason for it. I've seen plenty of 6.0s make 1,500 horsepower, or that 11 to 1,500 horsepower range, and not spin a cam gear off their camshaft. So, when we take this apart, I'm gonna show you again where that retainer comes into play, and then how it's a keyway, and how it's literally not needed to weld this. The camshaft is not seeing the torque that the crank is seeing. It's seeing some of it, but the gears obviously lose it. So therefore, man, you'd have to have some horrible freaking luck to spin that cam gear on there, or to somehow kick that cam gear off of there and out the back of your engine into your transmission, your torque converter, your flywheel, then your torque converter, then your clutch if you're a manual. So I just don't see it, I can't fathom how it's gonna go through the rear cover on top of that. And God forbid it does somehow come off, engine's gonna shut off like that, instantly. You're gonna smack a valve and a piston, it's gonna be done. I could see if you had, 100 grand into an engine. I don't understand. It's just one of those things that I see on the internet and it just cracks me up. No damn way that's coming off. Look. Woo! There we go. There's the first pop. Now it's coming out. Okay, so this retainer sits down here behind the cam gear. So for this to come out, the camshaft to come out, these bolts would have to break, or this retainer would have to break, and allow the camshaft the freedom that folks are saying it's gonna gain. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying I haven't seen it happen, and there's really no need to weld the cam gear into place. I think it's this one that we gotta go all the way down to now. Now, we're not a full-time machine shop here. We have to utilize other folks for the machine, some of the machine work. So anyways, back to what we were actually doing. That's what Adam's giving me a hard time about. I'm just over here rambling about stuff that just makes me laugh. You wanted to, you could 100% put this in your freezer. Freezing this will shrink the molecules and make it easier to press on. I've done lots of them without freezing, so there's really it's not needed, but it does make it a little easier when you're putting it together. The most important thing you want to do, you want to make sure of, is when you're putting this back together, is that you line up there's really no way to put this on backwards. It's impossible to put this on backwards. I'll use my handy dandy rag to clean the oil off. You want to make sure that you line up your keyway, so right there. And then you also want to make sure that your timing marks are facing the correct way. If you don't, you're gonna have a bad day. Now, this thing comes in handy twice. This is a front main seal installer. So a big socket or this front main installer right around there. And then you just want to make sure that when you put some pressure on this, that you have this as close to centered as possible. That's important. So I'm gonna put just light pressure on here. And yes, you could take a mic and make sure that it is 1000% lined up. It's not a bad idea to double check, have a second guy look at the keyway, make sure that the keyway is lined up with the slot.
Good to go.
Now that we have this here, I'm just gonna take and put a little heat on the cam gear just to help it go into place. Your whole goal with the socket or the pressing tool is that it's wide enough to slide over the camshaft. Now, when you're pressing down, you can't really see it very well on the camera, but there's maybe a 1/1000th difference between where this cam retainer sits and where the cam sits. You have to seat the cam all the way into place. We have our keyway lined up, the slot on the cam. Cam gear, and then we have our timing marks facing outward. So we're ready to start pressing this bad boy down. I've had them go on a little sideways sometimes. Let's hope this one, nope, it doesn't. It's going on perfect. Right into place, nice and smooth. And you're just gonna bottom it out. You can't go too far. Look, that's still movable just fine right there. And we are bottomed out. Now, I don't want this camshaft to fall. Okay, thank you, Adam. Alrighty, I'm sure this is a little toasty now. Now, the reason we did that bigger is because the camshaft comes through a little bit. And you can see we got the keyway lined up. And that's a camshaft replacement, ladies and gentlemen. That's all it is. It's really not as complicated as everybody thinks it is. Just so you guys all know. This engine for Chad Brickey is getting a Stage 2 Powerstroke Products camshaft. It's not going to be a lope. These aren't, when you get to a bigger one, yes, they can create a lope. It's not like a gasser. Our goal is to open the valves more. More air in, more air out, happier the engine is. So this paired with the Powerstroke Products race heads that are going on this thing is going to be a rowdy son of a... So now we're going to get it all lubed up. It might be excessive, but we like to make sure that everything's very heavily lubed. So when you go to cold start this thing, start it for the first time, there's plenty of lubrication involved. So you don't run any bearings, mess up any bearings or any lifters. So be liberal with this, is what I can tell you. We use Lubriplate 105 like we showed you earlier in the video for pretty much all assemblies. Okay, so next, you're gonna start sliding this in. You don't have to worry about the timing until you get all the way in there. The last one's kind of a pain in the butt because then you're trying to like center 5 holes at once is kind of the kicker here. Alrighty, so now that we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and get my gears lined up. These two are on the top side because there is a tool that you can put in here and line it all up. If you're doing this with the rear crank flange taken off, which is really the only way you can do it unless you pull the crank to take the camshaft off, what you're looking for, and see I'm off right there. What you're looking for is the smaller hole on the camshaft. There's 3 holes. The smaller hole on the camshaft to be lined up just like that, okay? Smaller hole lined up in the valley with that tooth, the hole on the crank adapter, on the crankshaft. Sorry, my apologies. Alrighty, when it's in this correct spot, you can't get both bolts in, just so you know, that's another tip. So now I'm gonna have Adam, while I hold this in place, start one of those bolts. These are a 13mm bolt. They're very short. Their only job is to hold the camshaft in. Back to my little rant about how the cam gear can come off. Next, we're gonna put another stopper. We're gonna put the crank adapter in place. Now, you don't wanna fully tighten that first one down because it's not perfectly positioned. So now we're gonna back it up. Oh, other way.
Other way. That is good. Oop.
Then we'll tighten that one back up. And then we're gonna go back, double check that we have it in the correct spot, which Adam stopped me when I'm in the right spot.
Good. Keep going. Keep going. A little bit. Right there.
Both lined up?
Yep.
Straight up and down on the top?
Yep.
Okay, folks, so the tool mounts in here and lines it, and then you put a dowel in there and a dowel in here, and you line it all up. The tool is pretty hard to get.
I don't know if you can see it, but if you're correct, right behind here is another guiding hole that you can see right through. You got to see right there.
Right into the engine.
Yep.
That's a good point. So your dowels go through here and line up this hole all the way through the engine, into the engine. That's where your dowel would go, and line up this point with that point and that point on your crankshaft. So if you ever come across an issue where you don't remember how it came apart, watch this video. There you go. Okay, so now we're gonna find our crank flange adapter and put that bad boy on. Okay, folks, we found our crank adapter flange. It's right here. This is as straightforward and as mind-boggling as it can be. Some cranks have a dowel right here for guiding this. Some don't. So this is important to make sure that you pay attention to how this comes off, because you can put this on 2 ways. If you're 180 out, you'll have a vibration. So if you have a vibration when you start it, it's most likely you put this on backwards. But to sum it up, this hole needs to line up with this hole in the crank. This needs to line up with this, with your timing marks, because you would use this to guide the timing marks if it wasn't installed, or if this crank adapter flange wasn't off. Now, ARP says to use Loctite. So the washers that come with are chamfered on this side. The chamfered side goes towards the head bolt, and you use lubricant there, and then Loctite here. I think it's red, blue has been in so many engines, it's not even funny. So it's gonna be fine. So there's some other stuff on the internet about what you can and can't do with your crank adapter flange bolts. These aren't very expensive, so it's not a bad idea to replace them. That being said, it is not needed to replace them. You can reuse your crank adapter flange bolt from your original engine if you were doing this and doing essentially a stock rebuild. I recommend replacing them and anything that's gonna see more than, say, 500 horsepower. So if you're replacing the camshaft, but you're gonna keep it under 500 with like stock injectors and maybe like a KC stage 1 or something, that would be a good time to replace, to run the stock bolts. You're not gonna have any issues with that. I've done it so many times, it's not even funny. Reusing the stock bolts. Those trucks are out there still out there running, making power, daily driving, working, all that good stuff. It's just crucial to make sure that you use lubricant when you go back in on the head bolt side and Loctite on the threads. That is crucial. The other crucial thing is to make sure once you torque the heads, or you have a buddy, that you torque these to 100 foot-pounds. You will never torque these to 100 foot-pounds without somebody holding the front of the crankshaft or without having some of the heads on, okay? And then these are just like a tire. Essentially, you want to get this close because it does press on, and just kind of give it a little bit. You'll see it kind of press into place. And that's set now. Pressed on. Alrighty. So now we would torque these to 100 foot-pounds. Adam's here, so I'm gonna do that real quick. So Adam, you wanna grab the pry bar and roll it backwards for me so we can show the alignment one last time. This hole is aligned with the hole on the crank. This dowel is aligned, good, backwards just a little bit the other way, is aligned with the dot on the camshaft right here, camshaft pulley right here, that one, and this one. So all lined up, everything's lined up properly, so it's timed perfectly. After this, you can put your rear cover on. Well, no, take that back. Don't put the rear cover on. From here, you can put your J-tubes, your lifters in, your branch tubes, and then your rear cover, and then you're ready to start assembling the top end. So we'll get started on that next.
So now we are going to be putting, once we get the lifters in, we can put the branch tubes in. This is going to one of our sales guys and customers, Chad Bricky, so he's gonna complete putting the rest of it together. We're just gonna put the branch tubes on, put the rear cover on, and it's not getting an H-pop because he's got an H-pop already. And then we'll put the front cover on, and then we'll start building the valve train. I'll show you guys putting in a couple of the lifters, and then I'll put you down so I can put the rest in, and then we'll probably pause there so I can go grab the rest of the stuff to put this together, and then we'll continue. So we do have our lifters soaking in our little oil tub here. We went on a trip before we or after we put these in, so they had been soaking for like 2 freaking weeks, which is definitely plenty long enough. And then you definitely want to soak your lifters. You want to let all the oil get inside of it, all the cracks and crevices of the lifter. So whenever you go to start it, it's not riding dry. You don't want it dry because that's when stuff, friction and everything takes over and stuff like that. And these are Powerstroke products lifters. That's a lot of oil. You just want to obviously make sure that you can get as much oil not on the cylinders as possible and everything. If it drips down there, that's totally fine and everything. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, if it can focus. It says PP lifter. It's a funny name for a lifter, but Powerstroke products lifters. And we're gonna put the roller side down, and then there's only one way you can put these in. So if you look, it's flat right here and it's flat right here. So the lifter guide will sit on the flat spot. So you got to make sure they're all facing side to side when you go to put it in here. So you just put it in there and then you just slide it right in, and it should just drop right in. Sometimes you have to give it a little instigation. That's totally fine. So if you can see right there, see how we got the top and bottom completely flat, and then the lifter guide will sit on top of there. And if it, believe me, you'll know if it doesn't work because the lifter guide will not sit properly on there. That is deep. I probably should not put this much oil in here. Obviously I am getting oil all over the cylinder, or all over the block here, and I will clean this up. I have to go through here and clean the block surface anyway, or the head surface anyway, and with a whiz wheel, and we'll show you guys how to do that too. So I'm gonna just spray a little bit of brake clean this up, and then we'll do that. But yeah, so that's 2 lifters installed. And I'll put you guys down for a second so I can get the rest done. Some lifters will go in a little bit further than the others. It's totally okay. It's just because it's riding differently on the load, that's all. Holy crap. That's so much oil. I'm trying to be as clean as I possibly can about this, obviously. I'm just scraping my hands off here on the side. I don't know if you guys can actually see that or not. So just a little back thing on this. So lifters obviously do fail on a 6.0, that's granted. But it is really not the main, lifter is not really the failure point on a 6.0. It's the push rod being too long. Matt is over there talking to customers right now, so if you hear him in the background, that's what he's doing. Right now, we just got the lifters installed. Excuse all the oil on the cylinders and everything. I gotta clean that out still. So we're gonna put our oil, or our branch tubes in. This is either a torque spit or an 8. I found the 8, so that's what I'm using. And then this is our lifter guide bolts, lifter tray, lifter guide, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, we'll get to installing this real quick. Definitely when you take your rear cover off, make sure you put your branch tube back in. That is a very, very easy thing to forget. You're just cruising along and doing work, and all of a sudden you forget, and you got to take the whole rear cover off. Got to replace the rear main seal again, because we always recommend replacing the rear main seal whenever the rear cover has to come off. So she sits perfectly just like that. Take one bolt, threads in right there. There's that hole right there that we're screwing it into, and that's the front. That's where the front lifter guide's gonna go. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to put the lifter guide in. Look at that, see? I was talking about getting caught up in work and everything, and I totally forget the lifter guide. So I'll pull that branch tube out real quick. Here's our lifter guides. So we'll get those installed. It just pushes right in there. You'll feel it sit tight perfectly in there. See how it's flat right there and flat at the top? And that's the flats parts I was talking about on the lifters, that you want to make sure you get all those straight up and down. The lifter guide sits right on top of it, and this lifter is being a little cranky and try pulling itself out. So there we go. Push them straight on. That is no problem at all. Got that one installed. So this is what I was talking about. So that one wouldn't go on. If you look, I don't know if you can see right there. See how that one's not perfectly straight up and down? So that was causing her not to want to slip on. Now we got it straight, and there we go. She wants to slip on beautifully. And now we'll go back to our branch tube, get this installed. Just like that. Put our bolt hole in there and get her lined up. We'll come over here, do the same to this side. There we go, we got that side started. Thread this side in too. So these are an 8, the fronts are a 10. This is always 10. This is always what the front lifter guide bolt is gonna look like. So if you pull your tear yours apart and you do not see that, someone has messed up in the past. But it's okay, you can go to Ford or Napa or someone and get a new bolt. So we're gonna put our 8 on our impact here and give this a tighten. There we go. Just give her a quick snug. Give this a quick snug. Make sure it's tight, but you don't want to make sure it's too tight. It's a brass bolt, so it will snap on you. Just a couple Ugga-Duggas. There is torque spec for these, but the good old Ugga-Dugga works perfect. Lifter trays or guides, whatever you want to call them, like I said, is installed. After this, I'll come back real quick. I'm just got to go get the rear cover and punch the old rear main seal out of it. It's super easy to do. All you gotta do is get like a pry bar, flathead screwdriver, something like that. You just gotta hit right around here on this other side here. It's actually flatter on this side. You just gotta hit right there, you know, just kind of try and punch it out evenly. Now, we already banged the old rear main seal out of here. Super easy, like I was saying, you just gotta grab a pry bar or like a flathead screwdriver, just tap it with a hammer, comes right out. Sometimes it might fight you a little bit, sometimes it might not. We also got our rear cover seal put in here. We did throw a little bit of RTV around there, that's what you're seeing, just a little bit, just to help everything seal properly. Got our pressed on there. There is dowels on here, so you really can't screw that part up. You just kind of start from one corner, work your way around. Make sure they're all tight. There we go. And then you'll see a little bit of silicone come out of the top here and here. That's totally okay, totally fine. And then that's what you can actually see it. That's what I was telling you guys earlier, how the lifter is, one is higher than the other. That's just because of the lobe, that's all. See them riding perfectly on their lobes right in there. Kind of nice, kind of cool picture actually. But yeah, so we just got the rear cover installed. Next, whenever we come back, we're going to install the rear main seal. Rear main seal tool here. But take this all apart. This little slides off right here. We got this. This is what presses the rear main seal in there. There is, I don't know if you can pick it up or not, this little black seal around here. It comes with all the rear main seals, but we never take it out, so it's always in there. But you'll see what I'm talking about. Yours will have an empty groove in there when it's new, but ours doesn't, because we always just keep that same one in there, so we don't have to keep replacing it and everything. It does get kind of annoying after a while. And then we have our 2 holes here. Those will go into those holes right there and line it up. And then if you look right here, we have our hole to put our dowel right there and there, so you can't really mess this up. So it is always the metal part right here will be facing towards the engine. This little metal stick out part will be facing towards the engine. So when you put it in, so we'll prop this in here, just like that. Put this plate on here. Like I said, it's got a dowel on there. Very easy to put on. Actually, here, let me grab our rear main seal off there real quick and install this. And then we'll put our bolts in. Lines up every time and don't even have to worry about it. Slippery fingers. Tighten this. And we'll slide our rear main on there. Put this cover over it, just like that. And then we'll put our collar on. And then we'll put our nut on here, just like that. Super easy. Get her going here. And then we just use our crescent wrench to tighten her up. And as we tighten this, it'll start compressing it on there. Dropping her in there nice. And then you just keep tightening her down. You can go too far on this, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Keep tightening there. Don't have to rush it, not a race. There we go. It does, so it does get tight. Like I was not saying earlier, so it does get tight on you. That's how you know when to stop. Take our nut back on, and then take our collar off, take our sleeve off. Take our bolts out of here. And there you guys go. One beautifully installed rear main seal. Not hard at all. If you get that tool, super easy. I'm sure if you were trying to do this with any other tool, it'd be very difficult. We got that installed. Next, we'll be installing some heads. I'm gonna clean the surface area here, get all the pistons clean and everything, wipe them down, and I will clean the surface, the head surface here, get her nice and flat, and then we'll get some heads installed. We're back. We got our Powerstroke Products head gaskets, 18 millimeters. We got our dowels back in the block, so when we put the heads back on, they will go back on nicely. We got our Gator Competition Series studs. The Competition Series do come with inner row bolts, so you don't have to worry about that. The regular studs do not. And then we've got our nuts for the, I'm sorry, not our washers for the inner rows, and then we got our nuts for the head studs and our washers for the head studs. And then it did come with our assembly lube right here. So we got the deck all scraped down. Matt scraped it off camera. I had no idea that he did it. All right, and then we'll get this side on. There is a wrong way to put your head gasket on. So obviously you can have 18 millimeters on 20s, 20s on 18s. That doesn't work, obviously, that's the wrong way. But these top holes right here, if you switch the head gasket, like take it off and put it on the other way, these holes won't line up. And obviously you won't be able to put your inner row bolts on your heads back on because the gasket will be in the way. This will all still line up down here perfect, but these will be off. So you just gotta make sure that you're lining up your holes up here. And I did the same thing over here on this side. They're very much equivalent to Molly. They are equivalent to Ford OEM. We've never had any issues with them or anything like that. As many as we've installed, and obviously this is where your push rods will go, push tubes. You definitely want to make sure underneath your gasket surface is completely free of oil, completely free of debris, everything. That will make it so that this does not work properly. The head gasket surface will not seal and it'll create a head leak. And then another thing, spray, if you have an air hose or if you can get some compressed air, spray the inside of your head stud holes. Make sure you get all the oil out, make sure you get all the brake clean, everything out of there. You do not want any fluid in there because that will keep it from torquing properly. All right, there we go. There is one side installed. Intake manifold holes go up. Powerstroke, when you get the race heads, Powerstroke Products, it says you these nifty little metal intake manifold gaskets. In order to run the race heads, you have to have these metal intake gaskets. These are all metal, and it is ported for the bigger ports on it. That kind of makes sense now when you think about it. All right, and we got to take these yellow things out of here. These are obviously where the glow plugs go. As you can see, they already come with nipple cups installed, valve springs installed. Don't have to worry about it. Everything comes ready to go to slap the heads on. Next, we will be threading in our Gator Competition Series head studs and then our inner row bolts. And then as soon as that's done, we're going to be doing the valve train, which is push rods, the valve bridges, and the rocker arms. And then that's pretty much a wrap. We'll throw the front cover on real quick too, and his oil cooler housing. But after that, that's pretty much it. That's how we're shipping it to Chad. He's going to be doing the rest. But he has got an insane build going on right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. It was his dad's truck? Yeah, it was. Yep, his dad unfortunately passed away, so went to heaven, no doubt about it. And
now we get the pleasure of helping him build his dream truck out of the 6.0.
Yep,
It's gonna
he's
be
got
a black King Ranch
all black King
with
Ranch
purple everywhere.
He says it's illusion purple with Barcelona pearl. So it's gonna be quite the setup. He's already, if you go follow him, he's already got the rims on it. I mean, honestly, even the rims on copper metallic King Ranch look pretty awesome.
Wow, how good it looks.
And we got the heads put on, and then we got our competition series Gators studs put back on, and we lubed all of our all the tops of our valve springs. Right now, I'm going to put the gaskets back in the rocker boxes, slap the rocker boxes on, and then after that, we're going to put the push rods in. So we got our, just like that. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You just got to, you know, press it in all the way, follow the outer edge here, put that in there. Now you don't got to put any RTB here. You don't got to put any extra lube or extra sealant or anything like that. The pressure of the head stud being torqued will make sure that this is plenty tight enough on here. Now on trucks that have special circumstances, there's these two studs that come out of here right here, or pilot hole. Man, I'm pulling a brain fart. We'll call them studs. Pilot studs, and sometimes it's very uncommon, but sometimes they do need to be removed for this to slide on the head. Like I said, very uncommon, but it does happen. And that way it just seals all the way. Just got her slapped in there. As you can see, it lines up perfect, so we don't have to worry about that. Got that put back on. And now I'm gonna put the gasket on this side and put them on. Obviously, we've got these freshly painted for Chad. Make his dad proud. All right, there we go, guys. Other gasket installed. Takes a little instigation to line her up here. There we go. Looking mighty nice. So we got that done. Now, push rods. Already got one ready to go here with our lube. We got lube on this side and we got lube on this side. So obviously there's all of our push rod holes right there. 16 of them, you know, 16 valve. So we make sure we slide her all the way in, drops in, and then what you want to do is give it a little push with your finger. If it doesn't feel like it seats in there all the way, you'll definitely know. You've got to make sure these seat in there all the way, or you will have some serious, as soon as you go to try and fire the truck up, it'll bend a rod. A disaster after that. So you just got to make sure you lube the top, lube the other side. It will not block the oil passages. Don't worry about that. I know people are going to ask. We will install the other one, these other 7, and we'll install the other side. I'll move the chair over to the other side. We got our Powerstroke Products heavy duty push rods right here. And then we're just lubing throwing a little bit on the top, throwing a little bit on the bottom. And then I like to keep it, because I'm OCD, I like to keep it uniformity. So Powerstroke Products is facing away from me. So I will make sure that they are all facing away from me. And like I said, you want to push down and then give it a little bit more push with your finger, and you will definitely know when it is seated. So like I said, we're lubing up both sides here. So like I said, because of my OCD, I am going to make sure that they are all facing the same way here. Like I said, all the lube's doing is just helping with friction, guys. That's it. That's all we're doing. So right now, the push rods are seating themselves into the top of the lifters, and then once we get everything, the rest of the valve train put in with the rockers, that is what makes rockers. That's what helps with the rockers go up and down. Granted, I could be saying some stuff wrong here, so don't be afraid to correct me in the comments, guys. I take criticism very well. I'm a redhead. We lube both sides, make sure Powerstroke Products is facing. This one's being a little tricky. She's not wanting to go in there straight. There we go. All right, guys, so we're back and we got our rocker bridges installed. Like I said, uniformity, OCD, do it with you please. Obviously I put all 609 and C2 facing the bottom, so that's just me. So next, put grease right here, right in the middle, because that is where the rocker bridge rides. Put a little there. there we go. So I just brought a bunch over because we have a bunch of engines torn apart right now and everything. I just want to make sure that I didn't have to run back and forth a bunch of times for camera. With rocker bridges, you want to make sure that you take a good look and make sure that the tops have their flats in it and the bottoms aren't obstructed by anything, because that's where the push rod sits. Or top bottom, you know, whichever way you're looking at it. And there's a little ball that sits right in there on both sides. And then obviously on its, you know, when it's a single side, there's only one. You want to make sure that that ball's in there too. If it's not, obviously things are going to go pretty haywire. So I'll show you right here. We'll get one installed. So there you go, guys. Right in right here. This is the flat spots. This is the spots I was telling you that it's going to ride on the push rods. Next, we're going to be throwing our washer on first. Make sure you throw your washer on first, because when you put your washer on, then you're going to put lube. You do not want to put lube underneath the washer. It will not seal properly. You'll crack a head, or you'll crack the stud, or it won't tighten like it's supposed to and everything. Please, guys, make sure you are putting the washer on first, then you are putting the lube on, and then the nut. Do not put anything underneath the washer. That will not make it seat right. I'm gonna get all the rocker arms. I'm gonna get all the rocker arms installed. There you go. Obviously, guys, there's an intake and a exhaust. If you look right here, it says I right there, if it focuses, and then E right there. So exhaust, intake. Yeah, it is hella fast out there. It's almost like we have no idea what a fast 6.0 sounds like. It's insane. Nobody believes us. All right, guys, so I got all of our rocker arms installed on this side. Super easy, like I was saying. I'm gonna put all of the collared 10s in here too, but I'm not going to torque them down fully. I'm going to torque those down after the heads have been fully torqued.
Headed down to Durango, Colorado.
Get the other side installed real quick.
This is with the Powerstroke Products head gaskets, Powerstroke Products race heads, Powerstroke Products cam, Powerstroke Products lifters, Powerstroke Products push rods, Gators competition series, and Powerstroke Products gaskets.
Yeah, Chad, you might want to call up Steve over at Powerstroke Products and give him a big thank you.
Yeah, he's got to set up with some stuff.
Yeah, he got you set up pretty decent with all this stuff. Obviously, not free. That is not what I'm implying for anybody that is going to say some crap in the comment. So these are the bolts that we were talking about, these collared bolts that hold down the rocker arms. Do not torque these down yet. They will be torqued after the head studs are torqued, like I was saying earlier. Yes, so this is your exhaust manifold bolt. This is kind of confusing. There's the collar that is supposed to go, this is the collar that is supposed to go on the rocker arm, and then that's the collar that is supposed to go to your exhaust manifold. So good way to not have to worry about screwing that up. All right, guys, there we go. We got all of our 10s loosely threaded in there. Definitely try to make sure your bolts are as organized as possible, guys. That will make this process go a lot faster. We've built hundreds of engines, and you'd think we would learn this by now. But it's always just easier to throw it all in a bucket. All right, guys, so as you can see, we got all of our washers put on both sides. So now I'm going to grab our anti-seize and go around the studs. Try and be extra careful to not get the anti-seize underneath the washer. Got all our anti-seize on there. Now we'll throw our nuts on there. I have not put the inner row bolts on yet because I do not want the inner row torquing the head down first. Nuts here. Let's start putting them on. All right, guys, there we go. We got all of them started here. Get to torquing some heads. See that? That's raw horsepower right there. Torquing the whole damn engine in the engine stand. Totally joking. I'm gonna wait for Matt because she keeps wanting to shift on me a little bit. By yourself on this engine stand, which we are getting a new one. Don't worry, we're getting that fancy one that keeps her still. But for now, all we got is foot brakes. Torquing her, baby. Torquing her.
3 days later.
Got it. Don't worry, it did not snap. That was me slipping off. Little piece. There we go. Don't worry, guys, if it did, we'd cut it out.
No, we wouldn't. We'd show you that shit happens.
Yes, shit happens. But that's the torque sequence right there. And then it says that the interroll sequence is 25.
We usually do 30.
Yep,
honestly.
usually do 30.
We do 30 in there. We do 30 on all of your rocker bridges.
Yep.
I mean, your rocker arms.
See, I did it too.
And then, yep, it's human. And then last but not least, when you torque the injectors, 32, 32, 32.
I do 35.
Okay, I do 32.
I do 35. Guess what's never coming back.
Fair enough. Are we ready to do this side?
32, 35, whatever you land on. It's totally okay.
I'll be kind enough to help you.
Gee, thanks. Can you bring the chair over here so the guests here can see it?
That's why you're torquing them.
Oh, we're on 90, guys, by the way. Sorry. You're supposed to be holding the engine, guy.
We need to buy that bigger one.
Yeah.
We do this like every day, but we seem to be doing it more often than not lately.
We've been doing it every day.
We've been doing a lot of engines lately.
Honestly, if you own a 6.0, just get an engine stand. You're gonna need it eventually.
Or they can order an engine from us and they just have to put it in.
Yep, but you're still gonna need the engine stand. Well, it sounded like it snapped on that last number 9, but don't worry, it's good to go.
We can show you that again too. I mean, we can go over there and pull on it real quick and show you guys. He just fell off.
Yeah, I know, like hard. I actually almost busted my ass into the toolbox back there.
Last but not least, 265.
265. And then we were done with the top end.
Well, I mean, there's still some small things to do. The most important part is making sure that it torques properly.
So we're back. We got our oil cooler housing and oil cooler here. And normally we would fill this up with oil, but we're just tightening it down and shipping it to Chad. So we're just gonna throw it on there and then throw a bunch of tens in there, tighten it down. We're not gonna ship it with the oil spring on there, just obviously so it doesn't hurt anything on its way there. Find all of our tans. And this is that aluminum paint we were telling you guys. We're painted with here. It comes out absolutely great. Just, you know, freshens up the engine. You don't have to, obviously, but makes it look good. Tightening all these down. Some of these still have a little gunk in them, as opposed to others. There we go. That's the oil cooler right there. We replaced all the gaskets inside of it, put a new Ford oil cooler in there for Chad. And now we are going to work on the front cover. All right, guys, so we got our new forward gasket. There's a little dowel right there that holds the gasket on there for us, so we don't have to worry about dropping it. Here's our brand new cover. Looks absolutely phenomenal. And it's put on there. We'll start turning in some bolts here. A lot of bolts, a lot of bolts. Oop. You know what's crazy? They thought of everything when it came to the front cover. They said, you know what, guys, this needs 84 bolts for the front cover, but let's make sure we only put 10 for the heads, and I'm sure everything will be fine. If we do 10, it'll be fine. And wouldn't you know it? It works great. All right, I don't think I forgot any here. Looking around, nope, so I'm gonna grab them back real quick. Put them all down here. I'm just going down the line here, so I don't forget any of them. All right, there we go, guys. That is the front cover installed. This is all what the front cover kit comes with. It comes with new L-pop, new front seal, new crank bolts, new gaskets, a water pump gasket. This is your L-pop gasket. And then it comes with a new neck for that and a new cover for the L-pop as well. This is super easy to install. It's a spring that goes up in the bottom of the L-pop, or the front cover. and then it's the oil regulator spring. So you just shove it up in there, and then you tighten it down with that little Allen head, that big Allen head. I don't know if Chad is going to use his or not, so I'm going to leave it out. But I think I will have Matt show you guys how to install a front main seal.
If you guys recall, we used this really cool tool yesterday to press the cam on. After taking it out, we're gonna use the same tool to put this on. So it can be kind of tricky to line this up, but if you look, there's a spline right there, but it's not actually splined. It's just for oil movement, but it is flat surface right there. So of course the inside of the low pressure oil pump has to go like that. And then from there, you just gotta line it up by doing what I just did until you get it to where it lines up inside of there. Now, we're gonna take and shoot some grease in here. So we take and put some lubricate in there. We don't want this to start dry either. It's the only reason that we're doing this. And it's just trying to push some in there into the grooves all the way around. This is just to help it make sure that the low pressure pump doesn't run dry. And then after we're done with this, we're gonna take and crank it over by hand. Did it come with a low pressure regulator?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm sure
good.
if you want to install it or not.
Yeah. Your low pressure cover comes with new harmonic balancer bolts, but we're not gonna be using them. We're gonna use, man, they didn't ship that very well, did they?
No.
And then it's got water pump and a couple other things because they assume you're gonna change the water pump. Now these are your dowel guides and go like that. And then I'm gonna grab my handy dandy hammer right here. Just remember, this is a hammer. Just gonna push it in until it's about flush on the other side. And then we have the tenor right here.
Yep.
Now this is really pretty straightforward. It's gonna line right up in one spot only because of those dowels. Oh, forgot one thing. Okay. Yep, I did forget to do that, damn it. I'm doing this a little backwards. Okay, so next we're going to install the speedy sleeve. So if you look at this right here, this is to repair a crank that's got some wear. And over time, inside of your front main seal, there is a spring right there. It'll grind on the front main seal a little bit. The speedy sleeve is to repair that. This tool right here, you'll take and slide it like that. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can start it by going like that. Alrighty, maybe. Or go like this, and you just want to try to make sure it's nice and even. I just like to feel around and try to make sure it's as level as possible all the way around, okay? Now I need to push these guys back through.
That seemed pretty easy.
It gets a little friendly. We're gonna push these guys back through and then let them seat properly when they're in the front cover. So we got new low pressure oil pump, O-ring, it's right here. There we go. That's not one. The other one's over there.
Well, what'd you pick that one up for?
I don't know, it was on the ground.
Oh.
Alrighty.
There we go.
Oil pressure regulator goes in just like this, right on the side of the housing. Hold tight. I think there's supposed to be an O-ring on the outside too, Adam. I think we screwed that up. Is that all the O-ring that came in the box?
Yeah, there's the O-ring right here.
Okay, there's not supposed to be one at the end? I don't remember.
No, that's sealed right here, and all we're doing is just throwing it in.
Oh, that 8's for the heater.
Yeah. Chad, if it leaks, let us know. We have your O-ring.
That's a bad way to do that, but a funny way at the same time.
There we go, Chad. That is one engine ready to ship.
Well, we got to put a front cover on it. I mean, a harmonic balancer.
Oh, yes. And
This also comes with it, and it's no longer plastic. It's cast, which is nice. These were plastic for a long time. There we go. Grab the handy dandy 8.
It should be right. Yeah, it's right next to the lights right there. Well, in that case, we're keeping it.
Turned out nice. What do you guys think? Adam did a good job? I think he did a good job. Let's see how, let's roll it over. Just for the hell of it real quick. If not, we're gonna have to cut it out of there. Oh yeah, nice, and it feels so good. It feels great. Obviously this is a little tricky, but it's never a bad idea when you get done to do this and watch and make sure all the push rods go up and down properly. Never a bad idea to do this because you'll cause a lot less damage doing it by hand than you will with a starter. Do this with a starter, you don't have a push rod positioned properly or something crazy like that, guaranteed you will break a rocker arm or bend a push rod, hurt something. We don't want that. Now with these bad boys, they're very similar to the rear crank adapter. That's backwards, buddy. Is it? Yep.
My bad.
And they're very similar to the crank adapter bolt. You put the chamfered part facing out with a little bit of lubrication.
Just need a little instigation.
Well, instigation because it's old. Here is this. I got a washer right here, buddy. I want to put some lubrication on it, and these should torque to 100 foot-pounds as well. We're gonna put some Loctite.
Oh, easy.
Got a little excited there.
You were the Loctite.
Yep. Okay. Chamfered side. If you guys notice, the chamfered side goes like that. Chamfered, whatever you want to call it. For all those people that are gonna give me grammar lessons after this video, I'm gonna get so many grammar lessons. I'm so excited. Where's our handy dandy 1/2-inch impact? It came off of a dual alternator setup. That's why it's got, looks like there's another pulley that goes on the front there. Throw those stupid dual alternator setups away. Spinning that easy?
Wow, I just know it torques 200. That was a gigantic waste of time, but
Like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff.
make sure you click getting interrupted. But in all seriousness, like, subscribe, all the Facebook,